Rain poured heavily outside the small roadside diner, turning the evening into a cold, lonely blur of water and silence everywhere. Inside, a young waitress moved quickly between tables, her yellow apron slightly worn, her face tired but still holding quiet kindness. She gently held an elderly woman's arm, helping her walk carefully step by step, protecting her from slipping on the wet floor. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. The old woman looked weak and fragile, her hands trembling slightly, her breath uneven, as if even standing was a struggle. The waitress stayed close, adjusting her pace, making sure every step felt safe, like she was helping her own mother. Outside the glass window, a sharply dressed man stood frozen under his umbrella, his eyes locked on what he was witnessing. His expensive shoes stood in rainwater, but he didn't move, surprised by a moment he never expected to see in such a place. He held a briefcase in one hand, but his attention wasn't on business anymore. It was on the bond forming inside that diner. The waitress carefully guided the old woman to a chair, pulling it gently, making sure she sat without pain or fear. She wiped the table quickly, then offered water with both hands, her eyes full of concern, not obligation or routine duty. That simple act of care felt rare, real, and deeply human, something the man outside hadn't seen in a very long time. The old woman tried to smile, her lips shaking slightly, her eyes filled with quiet gratitude she could barely express in words. The waitress knelt beside her, gently, speaking softly, asking if she was feeling okay, her voice full of patience and care. The elderly woman nodded weakly, holding the glass with trembling fingers, as if even that small effort required strength. The waitress noticed immediately, placing her own hand under the glass, supporting it so the woman could drink without fear. Every movement was slow, careful, and respectful, as if she understood that dignity mattered just as much as help. Outside, the man stepped closer to the window, rain dripping from his umbrella, his face now serious, eyes observing every detail. He wasn't just watching anymore, he was studying the moment, as if something deep inside him had quietly awakened. Inside, the waitress adjusted the old woman's sweater, noticing it was soaked, concern growing stronger in her gentle expression. She quickly removed her own outer layer, placing it over the woman's shoulders without hesitation, ignoring her own discomfort. The old woman looked at her in shock, as if she hadn't received such kindness in years, her eyes slowly filling with tears. The waitress smiled softly, reassuring her, as if saying without words that she wasn't alone in this difficult moment. And outside, the man tightened his grip on the briefcase, unaware that this small scene was about to change everything inside him. The diner door suddenly opened with a sharp sound, breaking the calm moment as cold air rushed inside with the heavy rain. The manager stepped out from the back, his face already tense, his eyes scanning the room until they stopped on the waitress. He noticed her standing beside the old woman, not serving tables, and his expression quickly turned into visible frustration. Without understanding the situation, he walked forward quickly, his voice rising, drawing attention from everyone inside the diner. The waitress stood up immediately, her hand still near the elderly woman, her face calm but slightly nervous under pressure. The manager pointed at the tables behind her, complaining about delays, accusing her of ignoring her actual responsibilities. She tried to explain softly, glancing toward the weak woman, but her words were cut off before she could even finish. The old woman looked frightened, her fragile hands tightening on the chair, sensing she had become the cause of trouble. Outside, the man's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening as he watched the situation shift from kindness to sudden harshness. Rain kept falling, but he stepped closer to the entrance now, no longer just an observer, something inside urging him forward. Inside, the waitress stood silently, accepting the harsh words, but refusing to leave the old woman alone in that moment. That silent choice to stay instead of walking away became the exact moment everything started to change forever. The manager's voice grew louder, echoing through the diner as he accused her of wasting time instead of doing her assigned work. Customers turned their heads, watching silently, while the waitress stood still, her eyes lowered, absorbing every harsh word. She tried once more to explain the old woman's condition, her voice soft but steady, hoping he would understand. But the manager refused to listen, his anger already decided, his judgment made without caring for the truth behind her actions. He pointed toward the door, ordering her to leave immediately, his tone cold, leaving no room for discussion or defense. The elderly woman's eyes widened in fear, her hands reaching slightly forward as if trying to stop what was happening. The waitress gently held her hand for a second, offering silent reassurance, even as her own world was falling apart. Outside, the man's expression changed completely, shock turning into controlled anger as he witnessed the unfair decision. He stepped closer to the entrance, rain soaking his coat now, but he didn't care, his focus locked on the scene inside. Inside, the waitress slowly removed her apron, her movements calm, but her heart heavy with quiet pain and helplessness. She placed the apron on the counter, not arguing, not begging, only choosing dignity in a moment meant to break her. As she turned toward the door, the man outside finally moved forward, unaware that this step would change all their lives. The door opened slowly as she stepped out, rain immediately soaking her clothes, but she didn't look back, even once. Her eyes stayed lowered, hiding the tears mixing with rain, her hands empty now, as if something important was taken away. Behind her, the elderly woman struggled to stand, her voice weak, calling out softly, but no one helped her in that moment. That sight made the man freeze for a second, anger rising deeper, realizing how quickly kindness had been punished inside. He closed his umbrella and walked forward with purpose, rain hitting his face, but his focus sharp and unwavering now. The waitress kept walking slowly along the wet road, unaware someone was following her with a completely changed heart. Each step she took felt heavier, not from rain, but from the weight of losing a job she truly needed to survive. The man finally spoke, his voice calm but firm, stopping her gently, without fear, without judgment in his tone.
Stand here.
She turned slowly, surprised, her eyes red, unsure why a stranger would approach her in such a vulnerable moment. For a second, silence stayed between them, broken only by rain, both standing there as if time itself had paused. He looked at her carefully, not with pity, but with respect, as if he had already understood something important. And in that quiet moment, he asked one simple question that would begin to change everything for both of them. He asked her why she chose to help that elderly woman even when it meant risking her job, his voice calm, but carrying a deep, serious curiosity. The waitress looked down for a moment, gathering her thoughts, then softly replied that some people don't have anyone left, and she couldn't just walk away. She explained that the woman reminded her of her own mother, who once suffered alone, and that memory never allowed her to ignore someone in pain again. The man listened without interrupting, his expression slowly changing as her simple words began to hit places inside him he had long ignored. Rain continued falling around them, but in that moment it felt distant, as if the world had faded and only truth remained between them. He took a deep breath, his grip tightening slightly on the briefcase, as guilt quietly surfaced from memories he had buried for years. Without saying much, he turned his head slightly toward the diner, where the old woman was still visible through the glass, sitting helplessly alone. The waitress followed his gaze, worry instantly returning to her face, as if her own problem didn't matter compared to the woman she left behind. That reaction struck him deeply, because even after losing everything, her concern was still for someone else, not herself or her situation. He finally revealed that the elderly woman inside was his own mother, and the words fell heavy, changing the meaning of everything instantly. The waitress froze completely, her eyes widening in shock, realizing the truth and the connection she never expected to be part of. And in that powerful moment, standing in the rain, the man made a quiet decision that would soon turn regret into something far greater. The waitress stood frozen, her mind struggling to process what she had just heard, as the rain continued falling around them in heavy silence. She looked back toward the diner instantly, her heart racing with worry, realizing the fragile woman she helped was his own mother all along. Guilt tried to creep into her thoughts, but the man stopped her gently, shaking his head, making it clear she had nothing to regret. His voice softened as he admitted he had been too busy with work and success, leaving his own mother alone more than he should have. Every word he spoke carried weight, not of pride, but of regret, as if he was finally facing a truth he had avoided for years. The waitress listened quietly, understanding that behind his strong presence was a son who had slowly lost touch with what truly mattered. Without wasting another second, the man turned and walked back toward the diner, his steps fast, his purpose now completely clear. The waitress followed closely behind, her earlier pain forgotten, focused only on making sure the elderly woman was safe again. Inside, the old woman still sat alone, her hands resting weakly on the table, her eyes searching the door with silent hope. As the door opened, she looked up, and for a brief second, confusion crossed her face before recognition slowly appeared. The man walked straight to her, his expression breaking as years of distance collapsed into a single emotional moment. And in that moment, something powerful shifted, not just in the room, but in his heart, where regret finally made space for change. He knelt beside his mother, holding her fragile hands tightly, his eyes filled with tears as he whispered apologies he should have said long ago. The elderly woman looked at him with trembling eyes, her weak smile carrying forgiveness, as if a mother's love had been waiting patiently all this time. The waitress stood quietly nearby, her presence gentle, watching a broken bond slowly begin to heal in the most real and emotional way. The man helped his mother sit comfortably, adjusting her seat with care, this time not as a stranger, but as a son finally present. He turned toward the waitress, his voice steady but emotional, thanking her for doing what he failed to do when it mattered most. Without hesitation, he promised to take full responsibility for his mother's care, making sure she would never feel alone or neglected again. Then he made another decision, offering the waitress not just her job back, but a better position, recognizing her true value and heart. She hesitated at first, overwhelmed, but accepted with quiet gratitude, knowing this moment had changed her life in ways she never imagined. The diner, once filled with tension, now felt warm and peaceful, as if kindness had replaced every harsh word spoken earlier. The man stayed beside his mother, holding her hand, understanding that success meant nothing if the people you love are left behind. The waitress returned to her place, not just as a worker, but as someone who reminded others what real humanity looks like. If this journey moved you, show your support with a like, subscribe to the channel, and return for another story of hope.